Welcome to the Northern Outer Banks Podcast. From wild horses to small town legends, this is where stories, history, nature, and everyday life come together. Each episode is a front porch conversation with the people and places that give this stretch of North Carolina its soul. Whether you've been coming here for years or just found it on a map, pull up a chair. You're in for a good story. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Northern Outer Banks Podcast. I'm your host, Miles Daniels, and with me today is Chet Morris, whose family owns and operates Morris Farm. Many of you have probably passed it on your way to the Outer Banks right here on the Northern Outer Banks, Currituck mainland. Chet, it's a privilege to be with you today. Thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate you coming and hanging out with us. A little bit cold today. It's off season, but you know what? We're here. This is what it's all about. Get these tourists, get the locals knowing about this place, and show them how awesome it is.
Good point. I mean, off-season, because generally, especially during the summer months, this would be bustling, bustling market.
Yeah, you wouldn't be sitting right here in the middle of July, because with the tourists and locals alike be knocking us over trying to get watermelons, cantaloupes, peaches. So this is the best time to really do this, even though it is a little bit chilly. But
well, I do want to talk about the history and your family's story, but just for context, the farm and the market is situated on Highway 168, which is the highway that most of our visitors come from once they cross that Virginian. The tourist highway is what you call it? Okay. Do you get a lot of tourists who are stopping to stock up for the week, or what is the primary purpose, or how do they find you here?
We hope that they stop by because they see all the cars in the parking lot and it kind of grabs their attention. They got to say, there's no way I can pass this place. I got to see what it's about. And when they're here to get stuff, they stock up for the week. And then another thing that we really want them to do is when they get to the beach, they get to the beach cottage, they cook, they eat the peaches, and they realize how awesome they were. And they stop by on the way out of here, on the way home, and then they go tell everybody, their family, friends, all about it. So hopefully it's a revolving door of new people coming in and checking us out.
So what can one expect to find? I mean, this is a large, expansive market, one of the largest, if not the largest, on the Outer Banks, not just the Northern Outer Banks. So what can one expect to find? What's locally sourced here? But I know you carry a lot of other products as well.
So basically, everything, vegetables, fruits, and all that wind up. They start in the south. They start in Florida, and they work their way up. And hopefully by like July, that's when sweet corn is starting to come off locally. And we'll source out strawberries, cucumbers, squash, potatoes, all that kind of stuff we get from at least North Carolina if we can. The more local it is, the better.
So what is the history of the farm here in the farmer's market?
So my parents, they started this in 1983. They started out farming. They did greenhouses, just trying to make a living in Currituck without having to go out. I mean, it used to be you hunted, you farmed, you fished, or you got out. And pretty much so they farmed. My family history is a bunch of farming. And they started selling sweet corn out of the back of the pickup truck underneath the pecan tree, and it just started growing rapidly. More tourists started coming in since the early 80s down to Outer Banks, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And now me and my wife took it over as far as running it. When we got out of college, went to NC State and went there for agriculture, retail, learning more about the business and whatnot. And we got into it, and we started bringing a little bit of music involved in it, and opened up a little bar that Mom was hesitant about doing, but it's wound up. It's just it adds to a good family feel. And pretty much there's nothing that you can't do here when you stop. And we have clean restrooms, which is one of the biggest reasons people stop by. Everybody talks about Buc-ee's restrooms and how clean they are. One of our Google things that we just had the other day, we saw on a Google review was, holy moly, like Morris Farms restrooms are cleaner than Buc-ee's.
Wow.
And so we started that, and that's always been our passion is clean, neat, family friendly. We want your kids to be here, your dogs, whatever you got. I want you to be part of the family here.
Well, I don't want to put you on the spot, but you mentioned fishing, hunting, farming. I think a lot of our guests, a lot of our listeners, well, number one, they come for the beach.
Yep.
It's a great family-friendly destination. Probably familiar with fishing, the fishing industry, commercial fishing, charter fishing, hunting, duck hunting, obviously. It has a long history. What is the history of farming? I think a lot of our guests are probably surprised, first-timers especially, driving 168 and seeing lots of farmers markets and open fields, et cetera. What's the history of farming here?
So everybody really just they all started at the same time throughout the county. You farm, and then once Dad realized that the most money to be made was when he was farming, and he wound up turning around and selling the crate of corn for twice as much as he could selling it to a grocery store or something. So he was like, why am I doing that when I can grow it and sell it at the same time? Now since then it's gotten so busy and so big that most of the farmers around here, they get leased out to big farmers for corn, like soybeans, wheat in the wintertime, just kind of your staple grain type produce. Now it's not a whole lot of vegetables. The soil here in Currituck's not ideal for a lot of vegetables. It takes certain different types of soils to grow certain things, like blueberries or sandy. Some corn now you want to grow on high ground, some you want to grow on low ground, and it's a science to it now to really keep it going.
Most farms aren't near a beach and ocean, are they? I mean, does that create its own set of challenges?
Well, the challenge now is these people. We got a lot of people wanting to come in and move into this county. The challenge is to keeping the farmlands without, hoping you can keep on with the family property and not have to sell it out to developers. We don't. As long as everything goes well, we don't plan on ever selling. I hope to give this property down to my children, my family's kids, and just keep it going. We've got about 500 acres here. We've got some timber, we've got some got crops, and and it's everybody sees that they're on a farm. It's not just a business, in the next little neighborhood over. So it makes the county unique and something cool to stop by and see.
So you mentioned that most of the farmland that one might see driving through the mainland is leased from families like your own. Is that accurate?
For the most part, yes, sir. So, for instance, we got say we got 400 acres of farmland, and which is a lot for any kind of crop, unless you're a big-time farmer. Which there is still some big-time farmers around here, and they lease out the land, and it basically pays for the property tax. It keeps you from having to sell the land unless you really need it to develop it or something like that, or do whatever you want to do, or build a farmer's market on it and see if the land can make you money so you don't have to go anywhere. My whole family lives right here on this property.
Wow. So outside of farmers markets, where are the crops being sold? The produce, the corn, the soybean, wheat? Yeah,
so most everything around here, when you're driving down and you see almost like a big flower, a lot of people they stop and they're like, hey, what? I've seen this crop the whole way coming down here. What is that? I know what corn looks like, but I have no idea what that is. That's soybeans. And you got soybean oil. You've got, you wouldn't believe the stuff, chapstick, any little thing that you can get soybean oil out of. It just kind of goes to places throughout, hopefully America. Some gets shipped off. Some goes to cattle, everything serves a purpose in the farming industry.
Now you're one of several farmers markets on the mainland, and there are a few, once one crosses the bridge over to the Outer Banks, there are a few there, but this is primarily the hub for farmers markets if you're coming to and from the Outer Banks. What's the history of farmers markets here? I assume that you said 1983, I think, or early 80s when your family started.
My family started.
What's the history of the farmers market?
Really, it was, for the most part, as far I can't speak for everybody else, but as far as with my family, it was not necessarily their dream. They didn't ever think they were going to open a farmer's market. Maybe they were big into, they had, it's called the foliage factory. They had that to start with, and it was a big nursery and plants, and that didn't take off so well. And Dad wound up, he had an idea with his corn that he could sell, and he saw that it was going well, so he bought some property here from my great-great-grandmother, and it seemed like every 4 or 5 years we're having to buy more property from her, just because it was expanding in the parking lot. It's a huge place. I mean, you'll get, coming through here on an average Saturday and Sunday, we see up to 10,000 people in a couple of days. I mean, it's huge, and it's big enough it doesn't feel totally crowded. You can either be out back hanging out with the goats and checking the rabbits out. You can be up at the front bar here listening to music, hanging out with your friends. You got the food trucks. You can have a sip on a nice IPA if you like. And really what I started with the bar up front was we advertised you can sip while you shop. And, we got a lot of tourists that come down. They've been driving for 8 hours in heavy traffic. And I sat there and watched over and over. I saw that the husband would be pulling their wife's shopping cart, like, let's go. We got to get to the beach. Let's get out of here. And I was going up to him. I was like, hey, if you could have a beer while you're shopping, would that ease your pain? He was like, absolutely. And so that's kind of what, that's what started. And it was like a light bulb went off. And so now you can do anything and everything you want to do. We got a big, massive sand pile for taking your kids out, and they can play on the sand pile. We got slides on it, and, bring your whole family.
A lot of our guests will stock up on groceries before hitting the road, or oftentimes they wait until they get across the bridge to the Northern Outer Banks. But this is a great place to stop on the way down. I mean, so let's talk about some of the things. Obviously, the fruit and vegetable scene, but you've got a lot of other offerings here.
Yeah, we've gotten really big in, jams and jellies, and that's kind of your staple for any kind of, farmer's market or a general store type of thing. We used to churn our own ice cream by the tractor, and that started to get really busy. We had to go about it a different way. But we sell a ton of ice cream, milkshakes, pies. We have a huge bakery. I mean, people are back there, just putting pies out all day. We have homemade baguettes that we do, and cakes and cookies and brownies. And you can't walk by, even when you go in the restroom, you have to go by the exhaust vent coming out of that bakery, and you're like, I got to get some. I know what I want for dessert.
One of the unique parts of history as it relates to the Outer Banks, the Northern Outer Banks, the legacy of families, whether that's, like you said, fishing, hunting, in your case, farming. You were saying earlier that your family arrived in this area, Currituck County, in 17...
We've got records from 1714. They were here prior to that, but on record it was 1714. And, it's been a nonstop different things of what's going on. Some of them were farmers, some of them we had judges, attorneys, a lot of farming. So what I like to tell people, we've got a new venue in the back that we're doing a little bit of concerts we dabbled into, and it's called the Back 40. It's called Back 40 Live at Morris Farm Market. And when we were setting it up, I was trying to find the right part of the property, and everybody's like, well, how's it going to drain? This used to be a field, now you just put some grass in it, and it's 40 acres of an event park, pretty much. And everybody's, what's going to happen when it rains? And I said, well, what you don't know, but I know, and we just found out where they used to be was my ancestors used to put terracotta tile underneath, drain tiles, for when they were farming. And they plowed them with a mule and a plow, and they put these drains under the ground. And my dad was like, I know where they're at. Let's go find them. And, the big equipment that goes around the sides of the ditches and all, they kind of crushed them in. Once we found out where they were, Dad, he was like, he said, we're going to do this. And we got some replacement parts and hooked it up to these drains. And the second we opened them up, it just starts flooding water out of there. And so we have no issue with drainage. And to think my ancestors did it just so they could grow a crop and not be flooded. And now they would never think that we're having, Craig Morgan and these giant ZZ Top bands back there, and it's really cool.
How did that start? That's a fairly recent, historically this has been a farmer's market, but recently in the last several years is when you started hosting events. It really became a hub for community, not just with locals here, but we were talking earlier, you've got folks who fly in for these concerts now.
It's, so, I'm a farmer, hunter, fisherman. I'm the good old country boy. I'm not necessarily the big music person. Me and my wife, we started with local bands around here just to give an atmosphere. People loved it. And you ever heard of Oliver Anthony?
Yes.
Because of here. Because of this. This was his first place he ever played live. And how that happened, everybody thought that we kind of booked him after he went viral and whatnot. Well, he was friends with the guy down the street, and he called up my booking agent that we have here on site, Mr. Tony. We call him the beer captain. And he was like, hey, I got this guy. He's really good. We're having a little bonfire. Come check him out. So he came and listened to him. He's like, all right, you're really good. And sorry, it was my dog barking.
We've got the mascot. That's
got
okay.
The mascot, Truman. Everybody knows Truman if they've been here. And So he was like, yeah, you're pretty good. I'll give you a shot in between bands. He's only got a couple songs he wanted to play, and that was in, I think, May. And it went well. And so he said he gave him a date, and I think it was like the 9th of August, and which was the hottest day of the year. And let's do this again. Well, that week leading up to it is when he released that song, Richmond, North of Richmond, and it went viral. And by Tuesday, I knew it was getting bigger. Wednesday, it was getting even bigger. And all of a sudden, Friday come along. Any other venue that, you know, a market like us that hasn't done big events, I would have canceled it. But I knew that we could handle the people. We were getting calls in from Canada, New York, people coming in bringing 100 people on a tour bus. Like, where are you? How do I get there? Where is there to stay? And which, unfortunately, there's not anywhere to stay. Maybe a hotel is my next gig. But that really took off. And they say there was about 7,000 or 8,000 people here. Jamie Johnson flew into we have a local airport. That's a huge airport that Currituck's put in. They've done a fantastic job with it. And he flew in just to watch what was happening, because it was like, you know, something was getting unrevealed here, and it was pretty cool. So that's where it started. Once that happened, all the agents started calling us like, who are you? What is Morris Farm? How have I never heard of you? And so we ran with it and was like, well, I got some property in the back. Let's give it a try. If it don't work, we know we can sell peaches.
Exactly. So is this now an annual concert series, or how does that?
Not yet. So we are in the middle of nowhere. So what we have found out is it's almost like opening a new business, which we haven't had to do since 1983. So we're getting into big time like marketing and finding who wants to come to certain types of shows, and you know, what do people want. So I think this coming year we've got Scotty McCreery. He got postponed from a storm last year. He's coming in May 23rd, I believe. It's going to be a big one. He's a Carolina boy. Went to NC State. His family lives right the county next over. That's going to be a big one. And after that, we've got a few things up our sleeve. We're going to work on marketing, branding, just see what people really want to dial it in. Just like peaches, you know, you don't just get into the business and get the perfect peach every time. It takes experience, and so we're working on that. And we're looking forward to some good things in the future.
What is your season? When do you open? How long are you open?
It used to be just like every other business around here, even at the Outer Banks. It was Memorial Day to Labor Day, but now there's more people coming. The beach is, I mean, they've got so many more people, residents that live on the Outer Banks. And so now we go from middle of April to, we just closed last week, which is like December 7th.
Interesting you mentioned that, because I grew up here on the Outer Banks as well, and I distinctly remember a Memorial to Labor Day season.
And it was over after that.
It was over.
Yeah.
Stoplights on the Outer Banks would blink. You didn't really need them. When did that change?
Well, my cousin, he just did one of these podcasts, and it was pretty awesome about hunting and fishing and everything. And I remember him saying it was because he works with the county. He works with the tourism department down up in Corolla by the Whalehead Club. They've got a nice boat museum that he's running, and he's really I think he said pretty much in the past 15 years is when he saw it down at the beach just really starting to ramp up. And we've all seen it, but we try not and go down there a whole lot. We like to stay right here on the farm unless, you know, we go on fishing or something like that. But yeah, I'd say between the county, you know, there's nonstop houses, developments coming up. The Outer Banks, you go down there, every time you go down there, you see something new. It's like, where did this all come from? But it's a good thing. You know, you have to have growth. We just want to do it in the right way. And in the right way, in my opinion, is to keep family farms and family businesses like this in the county for these tourists that they've never seen this kind of stuff. They live in New York, they live in the city. They come here and they feel like, man, I really want to live in the country. A lot of people I have talked to now live around here because they love coming here and hanging out, and they want to have a family feel of their own like they do when they come here.
How has, if at all, farm to table has been big for about 20 years now? Agritourism, like ecotourism, a lot of folks are intentionally going to areas like this for
Absolutely.
Farming communities, produce stands like your own. Has that had an impact at all?
Yeah, so the big thing with the county, and they've known it since we really started developing everything. And it's a big North Carolina thing too, is agritourism, and that's what we are. Regardless if it's a music venue, concert, or if we're doing hay rides, it's tourism to get people to come out of the city and see what agriculture is. Be part of a farm. It's stuff they don't get all the time, and that's what we want to do. That's what we strive to get people here, is to see what you're missing. And this is it. I mean, you don't get any better, and they know that. And even if they know that they can't get away from the city because of their job, we want them to feel comfortable. You can drive 30 minutes from the city, be here, hang out, be part of our family. Local, tourist, doesn't matter. We want you here, and the reason people come back is because we make you feel like family. Everybody says how nice our employees are. We have 60 employees from 15 years old to 65 years old. It's just it's one big family, whether you're blood related or not.
We don't often think of farmers markets, produce stands as, and this is much larger than a produce stand, but this is more of an experience. We don't often think of those as a place to stop during your vacation or whatnot. But what makes Morris Farms family friendly? There really is something for everyone here, isn't there?
It is. If your family consists of young ones, we have, like I say, we have the animals, we have a playground, we have music to where you can go and you can sit. You don't have to be in front of the stage. You don't have to be at the bar. You can sit far enough away and play Connect Four with your kids and still listen to music. You can have a beer. You can have some food from the good food trucks we have here on site. And, something for everybody. If you want to be the guy that sits right in front of the speakers and listen to some good country music, some bluegrass or rock and roll, we try every week to switch it up a little bit. And that way it's not just gearing towards one type of person, age, whatever. We want everybody to come. If you don't like the rock band this week, then come for some country next week and bring your mom or dad and hang out. And we do a big Father's Day, Mother's Day type stuff to where we know that it's going to be good for the whole family, including the older generation. Is I don't want to go to a concert. Well, you're not at a concert. You're just at a place with clean restrooms. You got good food. You've got stuff to take home with you, and you got good music to hang out for the whole day. So that's what we really strive to do.
And how large, in terms of the property itself and the market, how large is?
Well, I'm not really sure anymore. I know the market itself is about 7,000 square feet. I know that because any bigger than that, you got to get sprinkler systems. So we try not to do that. So then you can add on buildings elsewhere on the property. It's just a bunch of a bunch of big buildings around hanging out. So I'm gonna say total, just under the shelter, you're looking at probably 10,000 square feet of a farmer's market. Now, what people get confused on, this is not a farmer's market like you used to go into in the city to where everybody brings their own stuff and sells it. I order all the produce. And so that's where a lot of things get misconstrued, I'd say, is they think that it's just going to be a bunch of locals bringing their stuff, which is great, but they bring their stuff to me and I buy it and then I sell it myself, versus that way I've got a control on everything, quality, and everybody knows that when they come to Morris Farm, they're getting Morris quality. And if it's not, I'm throwing it out, and we're not going to have it. I'll just tell them we're out of strawberries. They get upset with it, and then I tell them you would not have been happy with the quality, and they're fine with it. They buy blueberries. So,
you grew up here, your family, you went to NC State, came back. How has the area changed from your perspective, and what keeps you here?
What keeps me here basically is the county as I knew it and know it, and luckily still are living it, just because we do have a family compound here. I don't have to live in a neighborhood. I'm not going to have neighbors. If I ever had to have a bunch of neighbors, I would leave. If I'd drive into the work if I had to, but just the county part and hunting, fishing. And so what a lot of people don't know about me is I'm a full-time duck hunting guide off season. So right now we're in the middle of a split. So once November hits, I've got people to come in, just like they always have, to Currituck. That's what started this whole county, was duck hunting. And tourism back then was for duck hunting. And, my granddad did it. Ancestors were all, they're duck hunters, farmers, fishermen. And I just love being a part of it, being able to keep it going. And I hunt every day. And That's what a lot of people don't know about me. So once we get done with this giant fun headache, I step right into a boat and take people out to see more of the county. I just want people to see the county, and that's what it's about, whether it's on the water or on the farm.
Chet Morris, whose family owns and operates Morris Farm, the Northern Outer Banks, Currituck Mainland, one of several farmers markets that we highly recommend that our guests visit during their next stop here on the Northern Outer Banks. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing the history of this particular farmers market, your family history, the history of agriculture and agritourism here on the Northern Outer Banks. It's been a privilege.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Next time you're here, I'll buy you a beer at the bar and we can listen to music together.
You got it.
Right on. Thank you, sir.
Here, wild horses roam windswept beaches, and the ocean stretches endlessly before you. Each sunrise brings a new adventure. Each breeze carries the salt and serenity of the sea. Climb our historic Red Brick Lighthouse. Savor fresh seafood and North Carolina barbecue. This is more than a vacation. It's a place that renews your spirit and keeps calling you back. Where in the Outer Banks? Only in the Northern Outer Banks.